Selwyn Collins, your host of CWS Conversations with Selwyn. Thank you for joining us this evening. And those of you who are joining us for the first time, a very special thank you. CWS is about having conversations with people about their journey and how they're using their gifts and talents to help others. I believe that each of us has a story to tell, and it is one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about bringing people together, inviting people to come and share their journey. Because I believe when we share our stories, it best connects us as human beings. And so I often ask this question: we can never know the extent of our gifts, and it is why it is so important for us to give without expectations and to give beyond ourselves. We are back. Those of you who are joining us for the first time, I'm Selwyn Collins, your host of CWS Conversations with Selwyn. The lady next to me is Dr. Christine Thorpe. Christine, good evening. Hold on a second. I can't hear your sound. Good evening.
Good evening.
Wonderful. And thanks for joining us this evening.
Thank you for having me.
Um, I want to just read a bit of your bio and then get started. Dr. Christine Thorpe is Department Chairperson and Assistant Professor in the Health and Human Services Department at New York City College of Technology, City University of New York. Her interests include women's health and wellness, health disparities in communities of color, motivational interviewing, holistic nutrition, and health literacy. For the past 5 years, Dr. Thorpe has been the health literacy and cultural competence trainer for the Harold Freeman Patient Navigation Institute. She has also served as a consultant for several health and human services organizations in the New York City tri state area. Dr. Thorpe is a certified wellness coach and health education specialist with 15 years' experience in the health and human services. She holds a Bachelor of Science degree in psychology from Syracuse University, a doctorate in health education, and a Master of Education degree in international educational development from Teachers College, Columbia University. She also holds membership in the American Public Health Association and Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Inc. Dr. Thorpe is married with two children. Wonderful. Dr. Thorpe, how may I address you this evening? How may I address you this evening?
You can call me Christine. You can call
Wonderful.
Dr. Thorpe, whichever is most comfortable.
Okay. All right, I'll interchange. Where were you born, and who are some of the characters from the neighborhood you still think of today?
I was born in New York and I grew up in Queens Village. And interestingly, I went to school in a neighboring town out in Elmont. I went to a Catholic school out there. So I knew primarily the children I went to school with and not really the children in my community because I didn't go to school with them. So I didn't know a lot of the young people in my area. Um, but I do remember my neighborhood. I remember the families that were there and the children running up and down the street. I remember the ice cream truck in the summertime. I still remember the song that the truck played. I remember growing up in a very nice, quiet residential area.
With all your academic accomplishments, if we were to ask those closest to you if you were tough on yourself, what do you believe your husband, family members, and your colleagues would say about you?
Oh my goodness, they would definitely say I'm very hard on myself, that I don't give myself enough of a break in terms of taking a step back and seeing that I've done, some solid work. And I've always feel like there's more to do and miles to go before I sleep. And I never felt like I've done enough. Or I always think, how could I have done something better? how could I improve things going forward? And I never keep things at just, a comfortable level, but always try to challenge myself beyond what I've, you know, my current state. I believe that we should all continuously evolve. We should all be works in progress, and that should continue throughout all the days of our lives. And I'm hoping to represent that for my family, especially my children and my students as well.
And what do you say about yourself, about being tough on yourself?
I'm tough on myself because I know that I can do more. And I always feel like I've not ever fully reached my complete pinnacle. I always feel that I can do above and beyond what is called of me, because I know that I believe God has blessed me, and it's my duty to give of myself as part of my calling, part of my service. And whether it's service within my family or within my work with my students, as a professor, I believe that every step I take should be a bigger and better step, not just for me to put myself on a pedestal, but to make sure that I'm giving resources to those who need it in a more efficient, more effective, more impactful way to help improve and touch someone else's life.
You said you grew up in Queens Village. Can you give us a glimpse of Christine at the age of 9, the age of 15, and who she became at 24?
Okay, at 9, I was in, I believe, fourth grade, and I was a very quiet student. I was studious, but I was one of the quiet children in school. And it was always interesting. I always felt that, you know, I felt that I put a lot of pressure on myself to do well, because not only was it expected of me, but I didn't want people to think less of me as a 9-year-old child who was growing and thinking that I had capabilities, I had a capacity, and I was definitely self motivated. I was an avid reader. I remember my mother taking us to the local Queens Village library, and I wouldn't just come out with one book, but I would come out with 10 books. And I had a special place on the couch in the living room that was just my corner. And when it was cold, I had this really nice fluffy robe that I would wear and wrap myself in and read books until about 11 o'clock at night. And that would be the only excuse I could have for staying up late, was that I was able to read books from the library. And I remember that at 9. At 15, I was in high school in Queens, went to a private Catholic high school, and I remember being very active. I was in a lot of the music, after school music activities. I was in 3 different choirs, and I'm trying to think what else I was in. I know for sure I was in 3 different choir groups. I liked singing in high school, and that was one of the big activities at school. If you were in music activities, whether you were singing or playing an instrument, and my instrument at the time was voice. And I really enjoyed the choir singing that we had in high school. I really, really enjoyed my high school years. I think those of all my educational years, that was definitely a time of growing and understanding who I was, and becoming coming into a little bit more of what kind of person I would want to see myself being one day. And I developed friendships. Again, school was very important to me, studying and doing well in my classes. But I really enjoyed high school. It was a really good experience. And then in my 20s, you said 24?
24, yes.
Okay, 24. Oh my. Um, at 24, wow, at 24, I recall just finishing my first master's degree. I had got my Master of Arts in Health Education at Teachers College, Columbia University, and I had gotten a city health department job, and that was my first time moving away, moving out. I had gotten my own place, and it was. scary yet exciting. And I remember my mother embracing me, and she was proud of me that I was able to, grow up, get my wings, and fly. And she was proud that I gotten a master's degree. I had secured really good employment. I was in a position where I could take care of myself. And she felt, wow, I did my job well as a mom, and I'm proud of you, and I want you to continue to excel. And she remember her saying, I know you want to do more, you can do more, you want to go for a doctorate. Don't forget those things when you go out there working. But I know you need to grow and develop yourself and be find your independence. So go. And she was wonderful, and I really appreciated her kind words and her encouragement.
What is your fondest memory of her?
Of my mom,
Yeah.
oh gosh, my memories, I have so many, and we're always creating new ones. My mom and I are very close. Oh gosh, my fondest memories of my
Or just one of them. One of
mom.
them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a lot of good memories. We would, oh goodness, I remember this one. My mom is a retired nurse now, but when she would work the nursing shifts, she would work the evening shift, the 3 to 11 shift at the hospital. And on Friday nights, because I could stay up later then and I didn't have school, I would wait for her to come home from work, and it was about 11:30 or so. She would get home 11:25, 11:30. She didn't work very far from home, and she would get home, take a quick shower, and she and I would stay up, watch little TV, and share mashed potatoes and sardines in one bowl, and that was our bonding moment. And
Wow.
I remember that for years when she worked that shift at that hospital. I would wait for her on a Friday night, and we would share mashed potatoes and sardines. While some people hearing that might say, "Oh, that sounds gross," that was just our thing,
Got you.
and it's a memory that, oh my goodness, you brought me back to a really wonderful memory. That was
It,
a lot of fun at 11:30, 12 o'clock at night, eating with my mom and watching TV and laughing and cracking jokes. We had good bonding moments.
you said she was very proud of you and very happy when you got your masters and you moved out, and very proud moment for her. Do you remember any special words of wisdom from her that has shaped who you are today?
Oh yeah. No good thing will he withhold from them, from those who walk uprightly. The quote, the scripture that is quoted that you use, that I gave to you, that is a scripture she has always shared with me, and she's always made told me to, walk tall, hold my head up, and walk uprightly. God will bless you. He won't withhold anything from you. Just do what you're supposed to do, and those encouraging words always stayed with me, and it always propelled me to go on and pursue greater heights.
How has the arrival of your children shaped who you are as a woman today?
Say that again, I'm
How
sorry.
has the arrival of your children shaped who you are as a woman today?
Oh wow, well, my son more so. First and foremost, he's my oldest. He's 6 years old, actually going to be 7 next week.
Oh, okay.
But
Happy birthday.
7 years ago this week, I was 9 months pregnant, and I was walking um, through my doctoral graduation in cap and gown. And that was a very big moment. I was completing my doctorate, and I was going to have a baby within a matter of days. Needless to say, I was the largest graduate that year, but and I have the pictures to show it. Um, but it was a very special moment. I remember my dissertation advisor walking with me arm in arm, very proudly, to know that this big graduate was hers. And when they hood you, when they hood you at graduation, when I got hooded, people didn't realize until I got up and walked to the center of the stage that I was pregnant, and the crowd went, oh, and it was fun. People were worried that my son would come at that moment, but he was wonderful. He waited a few days, and he came no more than 4 or 5 days after graduation. So it was an interesting time. He, quietly, we joke around and say he already has his doctorate. He just has to work backwards now and get all the other
Ah, I like
accomplishments.
that. I like that.
Yeah. So
Uh,
he's so bright. He's so brilliant. He's so lovely. And so that has shaped me because I became doctor and mother basically within a week of within 1 week I acquired two titles, and it changed my life. But I have to say, becoming a mother has been the greatest title I could ever have. I have a 4 year old daughter. She came along 4 years ago, and she came along when I had just started my first full time faculty position. And I call her my butterfly. She is a little girl. I always say to her, if I was a little girl, she would be my friend. She
Wow.
is so lively, so much fun. I was a quiet child, but she's the ex, the external personality of what I would feel on the inside. So when I watch her, I get a little giddy because she is the, you know, outward embodiment of the person, the feelings I had within me as a child, and she's so much fun. Oh my goodness. And
Oh.
I try to enjoy her and have special bonding moments with her, just like my mom had with me.
Christine, I want to, I would like you to indulge me a hypothetical.
Okay.
You're in the country somewhere.
Okay.
It's late spring and you have some time to relax. Read a book, sip your favorite beverage, and listen to some music. What will you be reading? What will you be drinking? And what music will be in your playlist?
Well, my hope is to read when it comes out. My colleague, Dr. Martha Evinger Critchlow, if I may mention her book, she has a book coming out called Migrations Toward um, an American West, from Ida B. Wells to Redessa Jones. And she's been talking with me about her book, and it's coming out, and she showed me the cover. She was so excited. So my hope would be to support my colleague and read her book and be able to engage her in conversation about, what motivated her to write this book and how she gathered the stories that she did to make this book come to fruition. So that would be a book I'd like to read.
Hmm.
um, I would be drinking either coconut water or June plum juice,
Oh.
and I love them both. I find them both refreshing. Coming, having a family from Jamaica, and going there to have anything that would grow on a tree in juice form makes me excited. But I would lean more towards either June plum juice or coconut water. And what would I be listening to? Gosh, what would I be listening to? You know, I I can't say I would have anything specific that I would be listening to.
Mhm.
I I think I would really want to listen to nature and listen to the sounds of the birds, and if I'm in the country, if there are crickets. I think if I were to listen to music, I would miss the beauty of the environment around me. Not that music isn't beautiful, but if I'm going to be reading a book and having a beverage, I want to have all of my senses outside of my visual kind of in tune to the country around me. So that's kind of, I guess that's a sideways response to what I would
It's
do.
okay. It's okay. It's your response. It's your response. It's okay. Uh, who would you say has had a great impact on you as a child outside of your parent?
Instead of my parents, who's had a great impact on me as a child, my grandmother, my mother's mother,
Hmm.
when she was in this country, apparently I was her right hand person. I have memories of her, and I was probably a toddler at the time. I have memories of her taking me on the subway, all every weekends, different times of the evening, taking me with her to church services in the Bronx. So I don't remember wherever. I remember sleeping on her lap. That's all I remember. And me being, I call myself her handbag at the time. She'd take me with her whenever she could, and I have a lot of nice, warm and fuzzy feelings when I think about my grandmother. She was here, I think, for no more than 4 years of my life when I was after I was born, and I think it was about when I was about 3 or 4. She went back to Jamaica, but those are memories that I held on to for so long, and my mom says I had picked up some of her mannerisms and I didn't even realize, of course, that I was copying her. But she said, you look just like my mother when you do this or when you said that. And she and I, that was my buddy. I enjoy her. And my mother has a picture of my grandmother and me in her house. And I look at that picture and I say, this is what I want to look like when I get older. And I think she is just absolutely beautiful. And I'm amazed when I look at her, I see me. And
Wonderful.
this was, my another female elder in my life who shaped me so much. And she was just a wonderful person. And I'm grateful my children have been able to meet her. She's still alive. And a couple of years ago, I took them to Jamaica to meet her, and it was very, 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 very special to have now my children see her and be able to embrace her the way I did.
Oh, that's amazing. You have been a teacher for years. What are some of your thoughts and what are you hoping for when you meet a class for the first time?
I'm hoping that they come open minded and ready to grow. I'm hoping that by the end of the semester, they have evolved beyond their imagination. I'm hoping they see my class as more than just something to just pass and get a grade in and move on, but as an experience to shape their life. I take my role in the classroom very seriously. I believe that I'm a steward and I'm there to serve and I'm there to guide and nurture the future, the next generation. And having had the opportunity to get my education and be in a place where I can teach and have been blessed with a gift to engage and teach students, my desire is to make sure that by the end of the semester, this has been the most rewarding classroom experience they've ever had, and that they take it with them throughout the rest of their lives.
What kind of feedback excites you and encourages you to take that extra step or go that extra mile?
This week, I actually finished teaching a couple of classes this week, and a couple of the students, actually a handful of the students, at the end of the final, which was very unusual for me because typically students, when you give them a final, they run out the door because it's a final and that's it. They kept coming up and hugging me after the final and telling me thank you. And at the end, the last two students who came up and they said, "We're going to miss you. Thank you so much." And I said, "Well, what is it?" And they said, "You're passionate. You actually care about us. You didn't just teach the textbook and give us just textbook information. You showed us how this was applicable to the real world, to our lives. You gave us an opportunity to think beyond college and after graduation. Then what? Nobody talks to us like we're real people. You talk to us like we have sense, we have a brain, and we matter, and you value our opinion and you want to hear what we think and what we feel, and you use that as part of your lecture." And when I heard that, I said, okay, this is the feedback that helps me to know that what I'm doing, I need to continue doing because they were, I helped, and somebody brought this to my attention, the use of the word power versus empowerment. um, the power is already there. And whatever someone like a professor or someone who's in an educator position, they're there to help you see that power that is within and unlock the knowledge that you have the capacity to develop. Not that I give you power by means of empowering you, but you already have that power within, and it's a matter of me helping you heighten your consciousness
Mhm.
to tap into that power so that you can build your future. And that's what I felt happened with my students this past semester with the classes I taught. And
Your colleague, Dr. Marta Effinger Critchlow, who was also on the show, said that in her style, she expects full participation from her class, that they should bring something to the table. It makes me think of let us break bread and share. Do you have a similar approach? Would you say that you are, if I may use a metaphor, the shepherd who leads at the front, stays from behind, or walk among the flock?
no, I may stand in the front of the classroom leading, but I walk with them because I believe that learning is a two-way street.
Hmm.
My students, I tell them at the beginning of every semester with my first class, I don't like to stand in front of the class and lecture. Hearing my voice for over an hour without conversation would drive me crazy. So I can only imagine what they're feeling. So I said, when I ask questions, it's for you to answer not just for me, but for your peers, and let us talk about what we understand, what we've heard, for example, what's going on in the news. If there's something they want to bring to the table, let's have a discussion about it, and let's think about it, on a different level beyond what we're told. But how do you see this information impacting you personally and professionally? And I like to have those kinds of conversations. I like to see students jostle with information and go back and forth and try to come up with perspectives beyond what they had before, defend their perspectives. That to me is a vibrant classroom experience.
What prompted you to want a career in teaching, and what made you decide to go into health and human services?
I when I first started working with the city health department, I ran a peer education program. And it was that experience that showed me that I actually had a gift of teaching. I never thought of myself as a teacher. I was always busy being the student learning. And then having had the opportunity to run a peer education program for high school students and see how they responded and their reactions, it kind of showed me that this was something that I had as a strength. So that prompted me to consider teaching as a career. Health and human services, early in life, I thought I wanted to be a physician. And as I said, my mother's a retired nurse, so I grew up around hospitals all the time. So that was my entree to the professional world. I knew hospitals. My father also worked in the hospital setting as well. So I knew my way around any hospital. I knew how to find things. And I thought I was to help people who were sick. But I found that I wanted to reach people before they were ill. And I got drawn to public health and health education after college when I started to learn more about different types of careers. And when I got into my master's program for health ed, I felt at home. I felt, wait a minute, this is the stuff I like. This is the education piece that I want to give to people. How do you prevent certain things? How can you be proactive about your health? What's going on in our society that we need to address so that it doesn't get to a point of, an epidemic? What can we do to help people individually and within communities to live above and beyond um, their basic living conditions, which may be a comfortable level of suboptimal. We want people to live well. So that's how I got drawn into it, the desire to help people before they got ill.
In the chat room, Kim asked, "Why do you teach?"
Why do I teach?
Hmm.
I love students. I love teaching because I love to see when students have their aha moments. I love to see when students take the information out of the textbook and make it come to life for them. When you talk about being active in the community and you give a definition about what's community activism, how does that apply to health and human services? And then you ask questions like, have you ever gone to a community board meeting, or have you ever gone to your town hall meetings? You know what those are. And by the end of the semester, having a student say, because of this class, I went to a community board meeting and I learned so much about why there's so many different types of fast food restaurants in my neighborhood, and I was able to advocate and stand up and say that this wasn't a good idea. And that's why I like to teach. It's because information is there that people could get access to. And when they have access to that information, what are you going to do? And I want to be able to challenge people to learn how to tap the world around them. And I believe it's done through teaching, whether it's in the classroom or in other informal settings.
You just mentioned community activism. Give us an example of how it applies to health and human services.
Oh my goodness. It applies a lot. For example, we have students who have been active. I had a student this past fall who attended, was it this past fall? No, I'm sorry. I think it was this past last spring. For example, she went to Nassau Coliseum to do a protest against a rapper who was going to be performing at Nassau Coliseum, and his lyrics were very explicit and derogatory against women. And she went with a group of other women to protest against this rapper and to bring awareness of the fact that his lyrics are very disrespectful to women. They're misogynist lyrics that promote domestic violence.
Hmm.
And that is something that we do. We protest, we write letters, we come together and we shake the trees and make noise about things that are not working within our communities. That's how we're active and let people know, no, we need more healthy fruits and vegetables. This semester, I had students who did a report on the food deserts in Newark. And because of their report and their commitment to addressing food deserts in Newark, they are going to be able to meet with someone I know at a local urban league in Essex County to be able to do this presentation and talk with them about how they could get support to improve the community and provide, good, healthy, nutritious fruits and vegetables to an area that is unfortunately deprived of resources.
Wow. Let's take a short break.
Has came on to you is a present that was given to you by God,
Hmm.
because that's what we want as human beings, is to speak up for each other, is to care for one another. Is if somebody is being done wrong or somebody is dying or starving, you're able to speak for them. That's love. So when I speak with my mother, she's always telling me this. So I feel it when I speak up for what's going on in South Sudan, or for us to have a voice, or for us to have an education in our country, or for all of these things. I feel her, because in a way I'm living through her. Because if she was if she was growing up in a culture where she had a lot of rights and she had education, I believe she would be doing what I'm doing, because the kind of love that she has for everyone, I believe.
Would drive me crazy. So I can only imagine what they're feeling. So I said, when I ask questions, it's for you to answer, not just for me, but for your peers, and let us talk about what we understand, what we've heard, for example, what's going on in the news. If there's something they want to bring to the table, let's have a discussion about it. And let's think about it, on a different level beyond what we're told. But how do you see this information impacting you personally and professionally? And I like to have those kinds of conversations. I like to see students jostle with information and go back and forth and try to come up with perspectives beyond what they had before, defend their perspectives. That to me is a vibrant classroom experience.
What prompted you to want a career in teaching, and what made you decide to go into health and human services?
I when I first started working with the city health department, I ran a peer education program. And it was that experience that showed me that I actually had a gift of teaching. I never thought of myself as a teacher. I was always busy being the student learning. And then having had the opportunity to run a peer education program for high school students and see how they responded and their reactions, it kind of showed me that this was something that I had as a strength. So that prompted me to consider teaching as a career. I health and human services. Early in life, I thought I wanted to be a physician,
Mhm.
and as I said, my mother's a retired nurse, so I grew up around hospitals all the time. So that was my entree to the professional world. I knew hospitals. My father also worked in the hospital setting as well. So I knew my way around any hospital. I knew how to find things. And I thought I was to help people who were sick. But I found that I wanted to reach people before they were ill. And I got drawn to public health and health education after college when I started to learn more about different types of careers. And when I got into my master's program for health ed, I felt at home. I felt, wait a minute, this is the stuff I like. This is the education piece that I want to give to people. How do you prevent certain things? How can you be proactive about your health? What's going on in our society that we need to address so that it doesn't get to a point of, an epidemic? What can we do to help people individually and within communities to live above and beyond um, their basic living conditions, which may be a comfortable level of suboptimal. We want people to live well. So that's how I got drawn into it, the desire to help people before they got ill.
In the chat room, Kim asked, "Why do you teach?"
Why do I teach?
Hmm.
I love students. I love teaching because I love to see when students have their aha moments. I love to see when students take the information out of the textbook and make it come to life for them. When you talk about being active in the community and you give a definition about what's community activism, how does that apply to health and human services? And then you ask questions like, have you ever gone to a community board meeting, or have you ever gone to your town hall meetings? You know what those are. And by the end of the semester, having a student say, because of this class, I went to a community board meeting and I learned so much about why there's so many different types of fast food restaurants in my neighborhood, and I was able to advocate and stand up and say that this wasn't a good idea. And that's why I like to teach. It's because information is there that people can get access to. And when they have access to that information, what are you going to do? And I want to be able to challenge people to learn how to tap the world around them. And I believe it's done through teaching, whether it's in the classroom or in other informal settings.
You just mentioned community activism. Give us an example of how it applies to health and human services.
Oh my goodness. It applies a lot. For example, we have students who have been active. I had a student this past fall who attended, was it this past fall? No, I'm sorry. I think it was last spring. For example, she went to Nassau Coliseum to do a protest against a rapper who was going to be performing at Nassau Coliseum, and his lyrics were very explicit and derogatory against women. And she went with a group of other women to protest against this rapper and to bring awareness of the fact that his lyrics are very disrespectful to women. They're misogynist lyrics that promote domestic violence. And that is something that we do. We protest. We write letters. We come together and we shake the trees and make noise about things that are not working within our communities. That's how we're active and let people know, no, we need more healthy fruits and vegetables. This semester, I had students who did a report on the food deserts in Newark. And because of their report and their commitment to addressing food deserts in Newark, they are going to be able to meet with someone I know at a local urban league in Essex County to be able to do this presentation and talk with them about how they could get support to improve the community and provide, good, healthy, nutritious fruits and vegetables to an area that is unfortunately deprived of resources.
Wow. Let's take a short break.
Has came on to you is a present that was given to you by God, because that's what we want as human beings, is to speak up for each other, is to care for one another. Is if somebody is being done wrong or somebody is dying or starving, you're able to speak for them. That's love. So when I speak with my mother, she's always telling me this. So I feel it when I speak up for what's going on in South Sudan, or for us to have a voice, or for us to have an education in our country, or for all of these things. I feel her because in a way I'm living through her. Because if she was if she was growing up in a culture where she had a lot of rights and she had education, I believe she would be doing what I'm doing, because the kind of love that she has for everyone, I believe the turnout would be this if she was in a place to do so. So I do feel her.
When you are in front of an audience, pushing your cause, do you feel her presence? Do you channel her?
Yes, I do. I speak with her before, mostly if I can get a chance with her, I talk about what I'm doing, and she just prayed to me, what has came to you by God, because that's what we want as human beings, is to speak up for each other, is to care for one another, is if somebody is being done wrong or somebody is dying or starving, you're able to speak for them. That's love. So when I speak with my mother, she's always telling me this. So I feel it when I speak up for what's going on in South Sudan, or for us to have a voice, or for us to have an education in our country, or for all of these things. I feel her, because in a way I'm living through her, because if she was growing up in a
We are back with Dr. Christine Thorpe. Christine, what are some typical health and human services problems that you have been exposed to?
Some technical problems that I have been exposed to. Well, one that I, subtly mentioned, but I was exposed to. I used to work in Newark, and the project that the students worked on food deserts was is a real issue. Mm-hmm. They noted that it's not easy to find fresh fruits and vegetables in the city of Newark for the residents across the wards to have access to. And I remember many years ago, I used to work in Newark, and I noticed that. I noticed that if I wanted something fresh, like a fruit or a vegetable, if I didn't bring it from home, I would have to drive a distance to access it. And that's a major concern I see for the city of Newark, among many. Mm-hmm. They've just elected a new mayor, Ross Barack, and I'm hoping that he's got a lot on his plate in terms of addressing a number of the issues that impact the city of Newark. But nutritionally, from my perspective, in terms of nutrition, I think that that's a big issue. Providing the residents of the city of Newark to get good access to fruits and vegetables, for one thing. On top of that, safety, access to these things in getting around their city safely. There's a lot of things, unfortunately, impacting the Newark residents, and my hope is that this new mayor will push forward and make some strides in improving the city.
What do you think is the reason for that, for not having adequate access to fresh fruits and vegetables?
Well, the reasons that I've seen and through working with my students on their project, the reasons were, one, the price. To get something that is fresh, organic, locally grown, is going to cost much more than a bag of chips and a 50-cent bottle of juice. Mm-hmm. And not just juice, it's that blue juice or green juice that you can get from a corner store. And when your budget is but so big and you can't afford on what you're making to buy all of these other kinds of healthy produce, you buy what you can afford. And there's no subsidy available for families who would like to even try or even give them the option to do so. So that's what makes it difficult, is that there's a price point that is not able to be met. And then getting used to the taste of fresh fruits and vegetables. If you've not had certain things, it tastes unusual. It tastes weird, for example.
Hmm.
I remember people saying they had to put sugar on strawberries. Strawberries are a fruit that on its own should be sweet or sweet enough. But if you've eaten foods that are processed with a lot of chemicals and a lot of high fructose corn syrup, very syrupy, sweet kind of drinks, your taste buds are desensitized to appreciating the beauty of food in its natural state. So that's another barrier. But it's all tied into, economics and access and education and understanding and exposure. So being able to mobilize a community to seek these things out and being able to support their desire is a big need when a community is not fully accessing what should be available not just to them but to all people in this country. We like to say we live in America, but we also need to understand that it's not the same across the board in this country. People are living at very different standards from one block to the next.
You've done some research in communities of colors when it comes to health and human services, and from the time between when you graduated with your master's to now, have you seen any improvement in the awareness or the communities of colors awareness of the various kinds of food and the effects of, as you mentioned, consuming too much sugar, how it can desensitize their taste buds and so on? Have you seen an improvement, or are things have just remained flatline?
What's improved is from the time I finished my master's until now, what's improved is the internet. We have access at libraries, we have access on our smartphones to information. However, I have not seen overall an improvement. I think it's been the same. Interestingly, I had a meeting this week with a colleague at my institution who is looking to collaborate on a project to work with young moms in Brownsville. And she said to me, "You'd be so surprised to see what they're eating. I can't believe it." I said, I'm not surprised because, if you're not providing people with information and helping them to understand why it's important, then they're not going to go towards it and say, "Oh, well, I should eat bananas and have 5 fruits and vegetables per day because it's good for me." What's the justification if there's a cost factor and there's no short-term gain that one can see or even understand why they should do it? I can't say that it's improved. I think the overall chronic illnesses that are impacting our society are actually getting worse. There's a reason why First Lady Obama is focusing on childhood obesity, because childhood obesity leads us to earlier diagnosis of diabetes, earlier diagnosis of heart disease, among other issues related to food. So when we are not a healthy nation from our children, it only means that down the road, we're going to have shorter life expectancy. We're going to be living with chronic illnesses earlier and unfortunately drugged up for a good portion of our lives.
Let us talk about some of your research interests. What can you tell us about some of the health disparities among communities of color?
The health disparities are definitely not looking good for communities of color. Diabetes, again, diabetes is very prevalent. In the Brownsville community that we're looking to do research in, it's the norm for people to live with diabetes and die from complications associated with diabetes. With that, heart disease is another issue. Okay, diabetics have a connection health-wise with heart disease, which could lead to strokes and other cardiovascular illnesses. Our communities are not doing as well as we need to be doing. There are some strides in some pockets, but collectively, the statistics are not showing great improvements in communities of color. Actually, another colleague of mine and I she and I are looking to do research on the Native American and African American communities, the impact of slavery and oppression on health issues,
Mm-hmm.
and looking at that from a lens of the 21st century. How has slavery impacted the health of our communities today? What is the residue of that?
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen research, and I would have to definitely look at it again. Research on the impact of slavery on African American women and uterine issues like uterine cancer, fibroids, and the emotional impact of having your children ripped away from you, having your body taken advantage of, and the emotional scars manifesting manifesting in your uterus as a place that holds the wounds that you felt and passed that on from generation to generation. So that is something we're going to explore.
How did this come about? Why did you feel it was you and your colleague feel it was so important?
Well, she contacted me actually a few days ago, because there's an opportunity for us at the college to do some interdisciplinary work. And I had been toying with an idea as to what I would do as it relates to women's health, because I'm teaching a women's health course this fall. And it's like a divine intervention. She sent me a message. She said, I was sitting there thinking, who could I contact? She's an English professor, Dr. Monique Farrell, and at my institution. And she contacted me and she said, I was thinking about who I can work with, because I want to look at the Native American and African American communities in terms of history and health disparities. And she says, I'm part Native American, and I'm trying to think, who could I work with who knows health? And she said, my name came to her, and she said she knew she had to contact me. So I believe it's a divine intervention that we will be working together on this project.
And before we move away from this topic, you mentioned Bronxville. You have a health initiative in Bronxville. Can you tell us again
A bit about that.
what this is about?
Okay. Well, this is a project working with children of incarcerated parents and working with the moms. And this is done at an organization known as SCO. And we're going to be going into the organization. They've already given us an opportunity to come in and do more of an intervention and trainings with the moms and with some of the children, and being able to help them move through a place of not feeling that they're able to take control of their lives, to being able to do so and move into an opportunity to get education and take care of their families. Mm-hmm. So this is a project that we're doing within the institution across the school of the department of the nursing department, dental hygiene, and my department, health and human services. And we're hoping to band together and go in and be able to build a resource.
When does this start?
I'm sorry?
When does this commence?
This will begin this fall. We're working on doing this in the fall. We have students from our department who will be doing their internship for that year at this organization, and being able to do assessments, do group counseling, group work with the women and the children, and being able to help them take steps towards making different decisions about their lives.
Paula in the chat room asks, how can we mobilize our communities to think and consume more fruits and vegetables?
We can mobilize our communities to think and consume more fruits and vegetables. One, we need to set the example. Okay. Two, those of us who are setting the example, we need to be able to go and shake the trees through our community boards. We need to actually let the officials know that this is important to us. And those of us who see that it's important to us, we need to make some noise and say this is what we would like in our communities, and identify those people. Who are the stakeholders who, if they speak, people listen? Identify those people and work with them and help them to rally our community into believing and understanding the value of this information. If you belong to a block association or organization and people turn to you and you're that person that they say, wow, I'm going to ask so and so. She always seems to know. You're a leader. And if people want to ask you the question of how to do something, that means that you're a stakeholder that is valuable who can be a change agent. And if you say we should be doing this and we're the kind of person that people will listen to, that is how change can be done. And we know who we are in our communities and who are our leaders. We need to align ourselves and come with some goals and come with a game plan to actually tap those people who want to hear that we're voting for them. When you flood their offices with your requests, these officials, they need to know what's important to their constituents. And if fruits and vegetables aren't important, then they're not going to do anything about it. But if you, as a leader in your community, can say to people and they'll listen to you, you can flood their offices with calls, with letters, and they'll know, wow, this is important to my constituents, and I want to get to them before somebody else gets to them, or else I'll lose their vote. And that's what it's coming down to. You have to know how to tap them, and you have to know how to be that leader in your community. And if you're not the leader, who is that people will listen to, and how do you get them on board with the importance of living well?
Paula also asked, what is a typical health issue in the very poor communities?
What is a typical?
Right, health issue.
Typical health issues in poorer communities? Goodness. Typical health issue is access to care. Access. The whole reason for Obamacare is people getting access to care. You get sick and you're in a poor community, how do you get in to see a provider for something as simple as a cold? Okay? Or do you clog up the emergency rooms because you don't have a provider you can go to in your community? You have to travel a distance to a hospital and sit in a waiting room for 4 hours for something as simple as a cold. Or your cold is triggered because you don't have heat in your apartment. So there are other factors that are impacting your health, but you don't have any control over that because your landlord is not giving you adequate heat in your living cold. These are things that impact people's ability to live healthy, their access to care, their access to good quality living conditions.
And Lionel asked, what are some common types of problems you see in your field?
Common types of problems I see in my field I'm assuming on the end of the professional of what I see, burnout. And this is what I talk to my students quite a bit about, that they'll come in passionate, and how do you remain passionate about what you do without burning yourself out? And I'm a big advocate of people practicing self-care. If there's an opportunity to debrief at your respective workplace where you come together as a group at lunchtime and just talk about the challenges that you face and being able to express your feelings and being able to form a supportive network because you're all on the same team trying to do the same work. I think that that's important. But I talk quite a bit about burnout because we're in a field of service and we like to give and we like to do. But when do we take time to look at ourselves and replenish? Do you go to a spa and get a massage or get a facial? Do you meditate? What is your thing that will help you get yourself centered? When do you know your point when you need to say, I need to take a day or two off because I'm getting that feeling that I'm either losing my sympathy and empathy and be feeling apathy, or I'm feeling as if I'm anxious and frenetic about what's going on and acting frantic. You need to know where you are before you get to your breaking point and hurt yourself or someone else. So that's something that I think is an issue for us in our field, is knowing when to pull back and regroup and replenish.
If a health crisis broke out in one of the inner city neighborhoods, are you confident that we or most states are prepared to deal effectively with most outbreaks?
I would hope so. I can't speak confidently because I don't know what's behind the scenes, locally, statewide, or federally. Unfortunately, Katrina, Hurricane Katrina, really showed us that we were not ready as a nation to deal with a real crisis, and that was frightening. Um, I'm hoping we've learned from that experience. I know in this area we've had Hurricane Sandy, and we are, still trying to regroup from Hurricane Sandy. Families are still waiting to get their resources. I don't know. I'm hoping that we take take things seriously and not think of everything as crying wolf, but recognizing the signs when something is not going right, and hopefully we have an infrastructure in place. And we know that we have disaster preparedness teams
Hmm.
across the country. Um, I'm hoping that everything is, ready to go at a moment's notice.
Lionel asked any health issues that you know about that most of us might not know.
I can't say that I have any hidden health issues that most people don't know. I think the ones that are most public are the ones that are truly most concerning, and you can find all information about health concerns, whether you Google and look up on the CDC website, the HHS website. You can find it on the internet at key health and human services sites. But the main ones are related to how we take care of our body, our temple, and eating right, moving our bodies, being mindful of changes in our bodies. I think that those are things that we have become so busy and so distracted by silly things on television or in the media that really don't help us to pull back and get centered. I think we get inundated with a lot of these media messages that on Monday you drink 2 cups of coffee, it's good for you. And then like yesterday in the news, we've always heard a glass of red wine or a piece of dark chocolate is good for you. Yesterday in the news, it comes out that red wine and chocolate actually may not be good for you at all. It may not do anything for you. So you get these mixed messages, and you don't know what to think.
Red wine and chocolate might not be good for you. Is that so?
That came out yesterday. That a study showed that it's not as potent and as important for your health as research has shown. That's just one study. I would need to look at it and read it very
Oh
carefully.
my gosh.
But I'm sorry. These are things I'm not giving up. So,
I, because I know quite a few people who will not want to know that about red wine. It's such a convenient reason for indulging it. So a lot of people would be very very stressed and pissed off to find out that red wine doesn't really help the heart that much.
they will be very, very distressed. And I'm a dark chocolate lover, so hearing that didn't make me happy either. But it's only one study, and it takes a number of studies over a period of time to dispel information altogether. But putting something like that out, just confuses people. I mean, we hear something in the news every other day, and people don't know what to think, so they don't think anything. So they say something's going to kill me, and they live by reaction and do whatever they feel like, and they're not mindful of their bodies and taking care of that. So I think the multiple messages that we get actually dull our senses from really thinking and feeling about our bodies, and taking care of ourselves and being mindful of how we care about ourselves within the world that we live in.
Paula asked, "How is teaching satisfying you?"
It's satisfying. I like to walk into a classroom and I'll say, hello, happy people. How are we doing today? And they'll smile and, oh, I'm okay. I said, come on, it can't be that bad. And we'll chat. And I'll get a little update on what's going on with them. And and then bring it into the lecture because I believe what you live is should be connected to what you're learning, so it makes it meaningful. But I find teaching very satisfying. I think teaching is just a nice. It's an enjoyable platform for me to have conversations with people. Whether
I Let's take a break, but I want you to answer this question when we get back.
okay,
Can you describe how inadequate personal health maintenance and self care affect not only the individual, but the extended family and eventually the community?
yes, okay.
All right.
Culture where she had a lot of rights and she had education, I believe she would be doing what I'm doing because the kind of love that she has for everyone, I believe the turnout would be this if she was in a place to do so. So I do feel her.
When you are in front of an audience pushing your cause, do you feel her presence? Do you channel her?
Yes, I do. I speak with her before, mostly if I can get a chance with her, I talk about what I'm doing, and she just prayed to me, what has came on to you is a present that was given to you by God,
Mm-hmm.
because that's what we want as human beings, is to speak up for each other, is to care for one another, is if somebody is being done wrong or somebody is dying or starving, you're able to speak for them. That's love. So when I speak with my mother, she's always telling me this. So I feel it when I speak up for what's going on in South Sudan, or for us to have a voice, or for us to have an education in our country, or for all of these things. I feel her because in a way I'm living through her. Because if she was if she was growing up in a culture where she had a lot of rights and she had education, I believe she would be doing what I'm doing because the kind of love that she has for everyone, I believe the turnout would be this if she was in a place to do so. So I do feel her.
When you are in front of an audience pushing your cause, do you feel her presence? Do you channel her?
Yes, I do. I speak with her before, mostly if I can get a chance with her, I talk about what I'm doing, and she just prayed to me, what has came on to you is a present that was given to you by God,
Mm-hmm.
because that's what we want as human beings, is to speak up for each other, is to care for one another, is if somebody is being done wrong or somebody is dying or starving, you're able to speak for them. That's love. So when I speak with my mother, she's always telling me this. So I feel it when I speak up for what's going on in South Sudan, or for us to have a voice, or for us to have an education in our country, or for all of these things. I feel her because in a way I'm living through her. Because if she was if she was growing up in a culture where she had a lot of rights and she had education, I believe she would be doing what I'm doing because the kind of love that she has for everyone, I believe the turnout would be this if she was in a place to do so. So I do feel her.
When you are in front of an audience pushing your cause, do you feel her presence? Do you channel her?
Yes, I do. I speak with her before, mostly if I can get a chance with her.
We are back with Dr. Thorpe. Christine, the question I asked you before the break was, can you describe how inadequate personal health maintenance and self-care not only affect not only the individual but the extended family and eventually the community?
Inadequate care impacts the individual by deteriorating their health. Their families watch this, sometimes helplessly, and it hurts. No one wants to lose a family member because their health is not in its best state, particularly if it's a health condition that could have been prevented or addressed early so that their loved one would not have to live um, in such a difficult state. And community wise, it actually puts a strain on the community in terms of finances. When we enter the healthcare system at a point where we are going to the emergency room with a tertiary level of illness, meaning that it's progressed at a further state, financially, that puts a strain on our hospital systems. And community wise, it becomes a problem because when we are in a poorer state, if we're in a hospital, we are in need of more critical care at the last minute, which may not be feasible. A person may have to stay in a hospital longer than one could afford, and who pays for that? And people, talk about, how is it that people are going into hospitals and at a stage where they could have had treatment before, but because they're coming in at a later stage, it's a strain financially and physiologically on the body. So that's back to the individual. I remember someone sharing a story about a gentleman this gentleman's wife had breast cancer, and they did not want to go see a provider at all. They waited and waited and waited. And then one day he brought her into the emergency room. And he only brought her into the emergency room because the cancer had spread so badly that it began to decay her body and it began to smell. And it was so sad to hear that story that personally, her quality of life had extremely deteriorated. Their relationship was such that he was there enabling her desire not to go and see a provider and get care, but had to draw the line when it started to impact the odor in their home. Her body just completely got consumed by the cancer. And when she came to the emergency room, there really wasn't much they could do for her except, try to alleviate some of the pain. But there was no possible way to have surgery on a cancer that was spread so pervasively through the body. And it's difficult. It's difficult to see whole communities go through a place where they're not getting treatment at an appropriate time. It was the impetus for why the work that I do with Dr. Freeman with the Patient Navigation Institute, that work spawned from his work at Harlem Hospital back in the 70s when women in the Harlem community were coming in with late stage breast cancer. And he would question her, why is this happening? Why are women not coming in? And, why are they, one, not checking themselves, two, not coming in early enough, and three, when they come in, why are they not navigated through the healthcare system to get the services that they needed? And it was a barrier between the hospital and the community. People did not know how to access the hospital, and the hospital did not know how to communicate with the community, thereby sending them back home. And they were not able to get what they needed. And he developed a patient navigation program where he identified people in communities who were leaders and trained them to help get people through the healthcare system, through the hospitals, helping them to identify the providers, identify the services and the support that they would need to get the care. So they also encouraged them to do self-care in terms of, examinations and being able to go in and get their checkups and how to get access to free, annual free checkups so that they could, stay on top of their health as opposed to coming in and dying ultimately. So
Kim in the chat remarks, why is a holistic approach important?
We are more than just one portion of our being. There's much more to us than just one finger. Our finger is connected to our hand, which is connected to our arm, which is connected to our body. We need a holistic approach in terms of our care, because there are multiple facets that get impacted when we are ill. Not just our body, our families are impacted, our finances are impacted, psychologically we could be impacted.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, someone who is diagnosed with a health condition could experience depression. So if we're trying to treat their health condition, but we're not treating their mental condition, we're still not really looking at us in a comprehensive way.
Mm-hmm. What is the conversation you believe we are not having about, how should I put this? What is the conversation we need to have but are not having about our health, both at the personal and community levels?
What we're not the conversation we're not having is how to connect. Everybody is in a silo. Services are not connected the way they need to be connected. And the process of getting through is so bureaucratic that people are likely to fall through the cracks. It's almost as if it's set up to challenge you. If you can make it through the hurdles and jump through the hoops to get to the next level of service, then you can get it. Otherwise, everything is separated and things are difficult to get to. And there's too much red tape that bars people from even pursuing the care that they need, from one type of service to the next. And it's the frustration and the multiple phone calls. And then, of course, on the other end of it is, how do I pay for all this? And we're hoping that, our healthcare system, Obamacare, will help address much more of this. But that's the other issue, is how do I get to all these services, and then how do I pay for all of this? And it's a big frustration.
Do you think this might be a worthwhile project to research, to develop a sort of a map to navigate all these these different hurdles to get to some of these services?
Such work is currently being done. I have just been doing work with American Cancer Society, and they have volunteers in place that they've been training and will continue to train on how to help patients navigate the healthcare system and access services that they need. And I have great respect for American Cancer Society, because they've been, casually say, they've been at this for so long, and they're continuing to find ways to evolve to become better at what they do and helping people who have been diagnosed with cancer and their caregivers and their loved ones. So when a patient has a diagnosis and they're saying, who's going to take care of my pet? American Cancer Society actually has resource specialists who would help identify information and resources that would help that patient. Mm-hmm. I find having services and organizations like ACS as invaluable, because when you're in a moment of crisis in your life, the last thing you want to do is have to fight to get the help you need and be the patient and the advocate at the same time. It's nice to know that there is a group out there that can help when something is going on and you are not as strong as you could in getting what you need.
Is there a directory of these groups or services? Is there a directory of these groups or services out there that you know of?
I'm sure there's a directory. I know of them more so because of experience and exposure. Mm-hmm. If you say diabetes, I think all of the national organizations like the American Diabetes Association. If you say cancer, I think American Cancer Society, Susan G. Komen, the Ovarian Cancer Research Fund. There's so many to name in that sense. But if you were to Google, but then look for organizations that are nationally recognized. And I'm very careful about saying Google, because sometimes you Google and the first website that pops up could be healme.com, and nobody's ever heard of that, and it could be a scam organization.
Right. Okay.
I think people have to be very careful how they look for information online, and they need to cross-reference it and get second opinions and recognize that there are organizations that have been in place for many, many years who have been doing work. And if you start with one, they will be able to give you information on who else to call to get the help you need.
Can you share with us one of your success stories involving a student who made it in spite of the odds?
Yes. This semester, I was very pleased to write. This semester, I wrote so many letters of recommendation for students who wanted to go to graduate school. And I had a student this semester. I had her last semester and this semester. She, when I first met her, she was a very serious student, go getter, had initiative, very sharp. I was really impressed with her. And as I got to know her in class and talking to her, she shared with me her story. She said, I wasn't able to finish at my first college. My parents couldn't afford to finish paying my tuition, so I had to stop. And I went and I did an LPN program so I could, make some money on my own and help put myself through school. And now I'm here, I'm trying to finish up. I want to go to grad school. I want to pursue a career in public health. This is what I want to do. Can you help me? I said, sure. And within that semester, she obtained a position at United Way, which was a great opportunity for her because it taught her how to basically work the community and work in the community and develop programs and find the resources for people in communities that, did not know where to find them. So she played a very invaluable role. And then she said, I'm ready to apply to grad school, and I've taken my GREs, and she applied to several schools, but she really wanted to go to Cornell. And I wrote her a letter of recommendation for Cornell.
Wow.
And I think it was about a month or two ago this semester, midway this semester, I got this email. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I got it. I'm so excited. I can't believe it. I got it. Thank you so much. And I felt so good for her because she pushed to continue her education, even though the resources weren't there. I saw something in her and I was able to do whatever I could to encourage her, write her a letter of recommendation, and now she's going to Cornell. And she wrote me an email saying that she was going to miss me and she thanks me so much and she's going to keep in touch. She went to Cornell to visit. She's so happy. She said her dad is so proud of her, and they went to go get her set up. She's going to be moving up there sometime during the summer, and she's just on top of the clouds. And she's been my star student, and I'm so proud of her. I told her, I know I'm going to see you somewhere on TV, representing the government. Yeah, you're going to be in Washington, D.C. doing something at the White House. She's just such a go-getter, and I'm proud of her.
Any advice for young people, but especially young girls wanting a career in health and human services?
If you want it and you have the passion for it, you must commit yourself to learning and growing. Opportunities to do internships are helpful because what organizations like to see is that you have a commitment and a connection to the population that you'd be serving. So, for example, in the department, my department that I in Brooklyn at City Tech, our students are required to do, by the end of their bachelor's degree, they have done 4 semesters of internship. It makes them so marketable when they're out there because they see their employers see, one, they already have hands-on experience. So that counts as 2 years of hands-on experience, unpaid, which is, sometimes challenging because these are students who have to work their way through their education and they have families, but they must do this. And in the end, it's very, very valuable. So I would encourage young girls, young ladies out there who want to go into this profession, do internships. Think about the population you'd like to serve. Who would you like to work with? Where do you see yourself? Find that person out there who say, wow, I like what he or she does. I've always admired that kind of work. Interview them. Go and meet with them and talk with them. Our students are required as part of their introductory courses to sit down with someone in the field and talk with them about their typical day, their typical week. What's it like in their profession? How hard was it to get there? What were some of their challenges? And what are some of the highlights that they love about what they do? And then they have to come back and report back. Well, after all of this, do you still want to be in this profession? And, sometimes it's an eye opener for people to say, you know what, I don't like to write. And I have to write a lot of case notes if I'm in this profession. I have to do a lot of writing, and I don't want to do this. So, well, you need to be honest. Or some people, by the time they get to internships, say, I don't really like people. I don't like to work with people. And it's always interesting when they get to that point. But we say, well, this is a people's profession. You can't sit behind a desk and just push paper. You need to interact with people. That's part of what we do. So part of it also is being very honest with yourself and understanding that this is a field that you have to love and you want to grow in, and identify people out there who are in positions that you respect and admire. Talk with them and learn how they got to where they got, how they got to their position, and try to model your path that way so you can get into similar positions as well.
If you were given a second chance to choose a career, what would it be?
I'd be a writer.
A writer. Why? You like to write?
As a child, I liked to write. I used to make little books, and I used to write little once upon a time stories all the time. I wish I could put my hands on some, but I used to write stories as a child. And, I don't remember what pulled me away from that, but I've always had a love for words and writing, and I love to read books. And, I recently got an essay published in a book that is about, it's a book about women and sisterhood. And I wrote an essay about the women in my life, in my family, starting with my great-grandmother to my grandmother, my mother, myself, and then to my daughter. And basically writing about our lineage and the gifts that have been transferred from one generation to the next, and now being able to see things manifest in my own child, and appreciating the beauty of who she is based on the women she's come from. And it was a very very moving essay for me to write, and I was so honored to have it accepted for publication in this book on the relationships that women have and sisterhood and the struggles that women are going through. So this is a book that's anticipated to come out in the fall, and my essay will be in there among other essays of that were submitted that talk about the relationships that women
Do you
have.
know the name of the book?
Would you believe the title of the book has changed? It was first called the Eternal Wars Among Our Sisters, but it has changed, and I don't remember the name of the book now because it was changed. But when it does come out, I'll definitely share it with you.
Wonderful. When are you most happy?
Oh, I'm home with my family. I like that. Enjoying my children. Just enjoying my husband and my children at home, just relaxing with them and just laughing at them being, particularly my children, and watching them.
What is one thing about you that most people do not know that will surprise them?
This question. One thing that people don't know about what's about me. Goodness. I'm trying to. Okay. I bake cookies. I've been baking cookies. Yes, I bake cookies. I've been baking since I was 15. I don't know, maybe it was the day I was bored. I don't know what I said to my dad. And he said, here, why don't you bake this? And I said, okay, fine, I'll just bake these cookies. I remember the recipe. He tore it out of some magazine. He handed it to me, and I baked cookies. They came out so good, and it turned out really well. From that point on, those who know me well, they will call me during the holidays. Are you baking any cookies? Can you send me some of your cookies? But people who, over the last handful of years, especially as a health educator, you don't turn around and say, and I bake a lot of cookies. But I been baking cookies for well over 20, 25 years.
Wow.
They're really, really good.
What is?
If
Yeah, go ahead.
if I wasn't a health educator and I wasn't a writer, I would put Mrs. Fields out of business. I mean, Mrs. Fields, yes, Mrs. Fields would be out of business. I bake better cookies.
What is gratifying? What is gratifying about being Christine Thorpe?
What is gratifying for?
What is gratifying about being Christine Thorpe?
I'm grateful for the life that I have. You know, everybody has their ups and downs, their struggles and their triumphs, and it's made me who I am today. And I enjoy the life that I have. I'm grateful. I wouldn't ask for anyone else's life. I wouldn't change mine because I wouldn't be me. I wouldn't have what I have around me, and I'm grateful.
What are you most proud of?
I'm proud of my children. I'm proud of the fact that, you know, when you see your parents work and put a lot into developing you, and then you grow up and you become this adult and they're looking at you and they're like, wow, so this is what happens. We sacrificed, we did all these things, and look at you now. It's a nice feeling to be able to give them that satisfaction that their years of sacrifice paid off.
What are you most thankful for?
Oh, just thankful for life,
Mhm.
thankful for my loved ones, my family, my friends. I'm thankful for the life that I have.
Finish the sentence for us. I look forward to Sunday evenings to.
Relax with my children and my husband. I look forward to Sunday evening just to relax with them. It's a time when, you know, sometimes we have a performance evening on Sunday evening with the children. My son plays piano. My daughter just started learning violin, and she does ballet. So they get to do a show. So you'll play a song, she may dance, or she'll bow a little bit on her violin, and so then we applaud them and we just support them because they're learning new talents and skills. So
Yes.
there are opportunities to show off. So it's fun.
How have we seen the best of Christine?
Oh no. I have miles to go before I sleep. God willing, I have many miles to go before I sleep. I have a lot more that I believe I am called to do.
If you could go back in time, what would you tell the 15-year-old Christine?
Hang in there. It's good. It's good. You'll have that moment where you'll say, when you can, you'll look back and you'll say, okay, this is why the journey was as such, and it's good. It will be good. Don't worry. Don't try to be worrisome about anything or anxious about the next steps. Know that every step you take is building the person you will be today, and it's a good life. So just be patient and know that blessings will come.
What makes you laugh out loud?
What makes me laugh out loud? My children make me laugh out loud. They're children. They can be so silly. My daughter's very animated, and she'll make up these songs, and she'll do these little movements. I'm like, you're such a silly little girl, and she's funny. Like, she's really funny. And we never know what direction she's gonna come from. I remember one time, what was it, last year? We were looking at schools for them to go to, and they had to make a visit. And my son, he's very, very much on the quiet, more serious side. And when he has his sudden moments, you're like, oh, where did that come from? And he's funny. But my daughter, she's unpredictable. And we were wondering what was she going to say or do. Well, the assistant head of school met us, and she said, I met your daughter. And she burst out laughing, and she said, she is so funny. And I said, it's not just us then. Yes, she's very funny. My children make me laugh. My daughter especially is hilarious. She's just this, somebody used the word, she's very effervescent.
Ah,
An effervescent personality, which is very lovely. She's fun. She's adorable.
well, time again has creeped up on us, right? And I want to thank you so very much for sharing your time with us. I really appreciate it. You were so very candid and and eloquent, and I enjoyed it.
Thank you so much for having me on. This has been so fun, and I have enjoyed this, Selwyn. Thank you again for this opportunity.
You're quite welcome.